So hi everyone, our topic is motivation, homework and study, and then how to help students with different learning styles in motivation, homework and study. So what is motivation? What is homework and what is study is the first thing to do. Motivation is the desire to act and move toward a goal. We all need it in every step of life. Homework, we all know what homework is. It's a student's nightmare, but it's normally a set of tasks assigned to students by the teachers to be completed outside of the class. And study is the act of learning a subject, usually at school or university. So going back to motivation, motivation is a word derived from motive, which means needs, desires, wants or drives within the individuals, and it's the process of stimulating people to actions to accomplish the goals. I think this slide is valid for all of us. So how do we become and stay motivated from very young ages to elderly people? So we have to set goals, and those goals have to be interesting for us. We have to find things that interest us within the goals that we have set, and we have to make our goals public, plot our progress, break up the goal into pieces. We can use rewards both as individuals and as teachers, and we can use teamwork all the time. We don't have to do anything alone. What does homework give to a student? Completing a homework makes the student more responsible and helps them learn time management. They have to persevere until they succeed. They are able to consistently submit the work on time and do a great job at it. Immediately raises self-esteem. And homework teaches students how to stay organized, plan ahead, and break complex tasks into smaller, more manageable parts. And it gives students another chance to review the class materials. With homework, students are forced to solve problems. The teacher can monitor how much of his class was understood by checking the homeworks, and homework teaches pupils that it is best to start early and work at your own pace. And also students are inclined to look for tips and tricks, online, offline, whatever. And study is something that we all need to do as well. So it's an important part of the process of learning, but every student has a different style of studying. And study skills are an array of skills. They include mnemonics, which aids the retention of lists of information, effective reading, concentration techniques, and efficient note-taking. What you see here is the result of the learning styles questionnaire that we did at our school, and you can see that 62 of our students, I think we conducted this questionnaire on 70 students. Yeah, on 70 students, so 62 of them have visual learning styles, 31 has kinesthetics, and 7% of them has auditory learning styles. When we check the learning styles, we know that there is no link with a student's or an individual's learning style and their intelligence. And as everybody else mentioned, people can have more than one learning style. And of course, knowing the learning style of a student or ourselves helps us both as individuals and as teachers. And as teachers, we can understand the behaviors of the students and help them in the learning process. So we have different homework ideas for different learning styles. First, the auditory learners. Normally, they are typically good at absorbing information from spoken words. So, as homeworks, we can assign them to talk or for study. We can assign them to talk to themselves or with others about what they are learning. They can recite important information aloud or record it and play it back. Reading a book and listening to the audiobook at the same time can help them. They can use word associations, they can set information to a tune and sing it to help remember it, and they have to limit distracting noises. And for kinesthetic learners, they are more physically active, and they also prefer to be active while studying, and usually they are not able to focus when they are sitting still. So they can read aloud, track words on a page with their fingers. They can write things down multiple times to commit them to memory. They can highlight and underline stuff. They can play with a stress ball or toy while studying, depending on their age. They have to move around while studying or doing their homework, or they have to take frequent breaks. And they can do hands-on activities such as building models, playing games. And for visual learners, they usually benefit from seeing information on a chalkboard or in an illustration, and may grow impatient listening for long periods of time. So to keep them interested and to make sure they do their homeworks and study, we can use flashcards. They can study charts, tables, and maps, draw illustrations, write things down and review their notes. They can also highlight and underline and color code the information. So the link between motivation and different learning styles. We all know that learners complete their learning tasks if they are motivated. And improving motivation is part of our training strategy in order to achieve best and high quality results. But if we want to define how to motivate learners, we have to reflect for a minute on the nature of motivation. So normally there are two types of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation refers to internal motivations such as autonomy, mastery, and meaning. And extrinsic refers to external motivational techniques such as money, trophies, rewards, etc. So you need a clear picture of the types of motivators you can use when designing a learning strategy. Extrinsic motivators work best, for example, with simple and clear tasks. So a learner gets a reward, such as a badge, after accomplishing a specific text, or gets a penalty when a homework is not submitted as requested. But if you want your learner to complete a complex task, such as problem solving, you need to promote autonomy and curiosity. The use of extrinsic motivators in a training strategy works for all learners equally. So teachers don't need to customize for individual learners. But intrinsic motivators depend on each individual. The boundaries between the two types of motivators are not so cut and dry. When a learner, for example, shares his or her own achievements with others through a social network, she does something that gives her a sense of satisfaction. So an extrinsic motivator becomes an intrinsic motivator. So we need a strategy that promotes both of them simultaneously or at different times. Well, motivation in these days is strictly connected with emerging trends in the e-learning field, especially gamification and m-learning. But when and where do we use either or both of these methods, and how depends on several factors. We need to be aware that misuse of gamification or m-learning can negatively affect reaching your final goals. People tend to be motivated by different things and in different ways, depending on the nature of the learning task, demographics, and individual learning style. So students who are intrinsically motivated might say things like this. They can say, I'm interested in literature, or learning math enables me to think clearly. I feel good when I succeed in the class. What are the advantages of intrinsic motivation? It can be long-lasting and self-sustaining. So our efforts to build this kind of motivation are also typically efforts at promoting student learning. On the other hand, efforts of fostering intrinsic motivation can be slow to affect behavior and can require special and lengthy preparation. But this requires getting to know the students and their learning styles and what intrinsically motivates them. And it helps if the instructor is interested in the subject. And with extrinsic motivation, students would typically say, I need a B in statistics to get into business school. Or if I flunk chemistry, I will lose my scholarship. And I love this one. Our instructor will bring us donuts if we do well in today's quiz. Extrinsic motivators more readily produce behavior changes and typically involve relatively little effort or preparation. Also, efforts at applying extrinsic motivators often do not require extensive knowledge of the individual students, their learning styles. However, they can often distract students from learning the subject at hand. So if they think of the donuts, they won't think of the lesson. And once the rewards or punishments are removed, students lose the motivation. These are the strategies for motivating students. We have to become a role model for student interest. So we have to be interested in the subject ourselves. We have to get to know our students. It's not only the learning style, but also their personal characteristics. We have to know them. And we can use examples freely. We can use a variety of student active teaching activities. We can teach by discovery, set realistic performance goals, place appropriate emphasis on testing and grading, be free with praise and constructive in criticism, and give students as much control over their own education as possible. For visual learners, they usually read to have fun or rest, can't study for a long time, need a silent environment to study, read fast, and remember words in written form. In order to appeal to these type of students, we can do the following. We can use flowcharts, maps, or graphic organizers, so anything that they will see. We can have them use a computer to type out their notes using different fonts, create checklists, write out flashcards, draw pictures, watch videos, and use highlighters to emphasize vocabulary or keywords. For auditory learners, they are usually successful in reading dialogues and plays, vocalizing lessons, speaking to themselves or others while reading about what they read, and vocalizing new words. We can ask them to tape themselves and listen back, give them audio tapes of their lectures, have students listen to a podcast for information, and during peer groups they take turns listening to one another and read material aloud to them or have them read the material aloud. And for kinesthetic learners, they read to understand and learn how something is done, not to enjoy. They practice the books, things they learn, and games. Enjoy short-term and fragmentary study, usually study lying on the ground. This is true. So, for them, students can use manipulatives to help learn. Have students use their bodies when learning, like the kindergarten we were in today. We can use objects to help them understand the concept and use a variety of different art supplies. They can close their eyes and imagine what they are learning and then act it out. So we just have to make them physically active. So as you see, we typically don't need any digital technology to appeal to each unique learning style. And regardless of the learning style, students learn best when they partake in a variety of multisensory activities. It's best to try and plan out activities that are suited for visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. I think that's all. Yeah.